been on the street all day today. Citizens are cleaning up, folks are helping each other, but the situation, as difficult as it is, seems to be moving along as well as possible. As I said yesterday, the impacted area by the tornado was 2 miles long from Chef to Dwyer, from Wilson to Mishu, about a half a mile wide. The National Weather Service, which is going to come up in a minute, has now designated this as an EF3 tornado. We think that potentially 5,143 structures were impacted in some way, although it appears now that about 300 structures were completely damaged and another 643 more seriously damaged. As of today, we have 33 total injuries reported. 5 or 6 are rather serious injuries, but only 2 people remain in the hospital. Right now, Entergy has reduced the power outages from 9,600 facilities down to about 3,500. Charles Rice from Entergy is going to come up and give you a report in a bit. And they have now restored power to about 6,800 residents. We expect that, as the original anticipation, 3 to 5 days for total restoration of power is probably about right. We have in the city of New Orleans about 40 public employees who themselves have been affected. Firefighters, police officers, folks that work for emergency response actually have had their houses hurt or destroyed. So obviously our thoughts and prayers go out to them, and we're going to work with them to make sure they have what they need. Yesterday I declared a state of emergency. You saw the governor with us yesterday. He likewise declared a state of emergency. As I said yesterday, we have been in contact with the White House. I also spoke with our senators and our congressional delegation, and they're all leaning forward to help us, hoping that we're going to get a federal declaration. But the major areas of focus right now are, as I've said, emergency response and public safety, providing shelter for those that don't have a place to stay, working with Entergy to clear the lines on the major thoroughfares and the interior streets so that we can all get out there and lend more of a hand, because I know so many people in the city really want to lean forward and help. Opening access routes for the RTA, for our schools, for our cleanup crews. And I want to say this until further notice, Interstate 10 exit at Chef Mentor remains closed. So again, if you have no reason to be out there, we don't need people sightseeing at the time. That's not helpful today. There's going to be a time when I come forward and ask you in a clarion call for everybody to go out there, and I'm going to expect everybody to show up. But today is not that day. That may be a couple of days from now. The city opened an emergency shelter for impacted residents at Joe Brown Park. This is going to be a one-stop for emergency response, case management, and recovery. But I want to make a very broad statement here, and a clear one. This is not a FEMA-designated emergency yet, and people should not be expecting the same kind of emergency aid that they got right after Katrina in terms of cash assistance, etc. This is for immediate needs, for shelter, for food, and for clothing. And as the federal declarations come, we will give further information about what eligibilities exist for the people in the city. We're going to continue to work hard to make sure that we find ways to house individuals that don't have housing. Unity, Hanno, and TCA are going to work with us. The RTA is going to continue to work with us. And if you need to get to the shelter and you don't have a way to get there, the RTA is picking up at 3 locations: at Dwyer Road and Crowder, at Dwyer Road and Wilson, at Dwyer Road and Wright. That's at Crowder, Wilson, and Wright. If a resident has a complaint to make and it's not an emergency, or you need an assistance with downed poles, street lights, trees, clogged catch basins, and drains, call 311. 311 for every non-emergency. If you have an emergency, obviously 911, and we all will have Spanish and Vietnamese translators are going to be available. So we've got a lot of work to do. We've got to clear the power lines. We've got to clear the downed trees and street lights. We have to get those individuals who need it connected to the services. We have hundreds of people working around the clock. I think Entergy's got 250 people on the ground. NOPD and the National Guard and LSP have hundreds of people out. 55 park and parkways, 30 sanitation, 16 Department of Public Works, 8 EMS, and they're working around the clock. And if you could just see the work that they're doing, you would be very proud. And on top of that, I was out there today, and the amount of work that people are doing with each other and with their neighbors is really heartwarming. I've said this to the people of New Orleans, and I will call it out to the nation. In our darkest hours, there are angels among us, and lifting each other up is the way that we get out of these very difficult circumstances. I'll put the people of New Orleans in competition with anybody in the country and in the world in terms of our resilience and compassion for each other, and I feel very certain that we're going to help each other get out of harm's way. I want to ask the public to continue to give us our support by letting the first responders concentrate on their jobs. Donations I know that people want to make can be made to the Greater New Orleans Foundation, Helping Our Neighbors Tornado Relief Fund. United Way of Southwest Louisiana is accepting donation and volunteers. Second Harvest Food Bank is accepting donations of non-perishable food items and toiletries. The Food Pantry of New Orleans is accepting information at 13040 I-10 Service Road, and the Household of Faith is accepting donations at 9300 I-10 Service Road. Before I end my comments, I want to give a special thanks to the governor for being with us. He is on his way to Washington, D.C. right now to talk to the congressional delegation about flood relief that our fellow citizens in Louisiana need, and on behalf of the people of the city of New Orleans. And also want to thank our congressional delegation and our senators who are all in the loop and who are working with us. Also want to thank our legislators for leaning forward, and our council members, all of which have been on duty 24/7 since the storm happened. I'm very, very proud of our team. And although that we have been through Katrina, Rita, Ike, Gustav, the national recession, the BP oil spill, we've been through tough things before, and as a city, we're going to stand ourselves back up. So thank all of you, and we will report out to you as circumstances require. So thank you all very much, and please help me welcome Mr. Ken Graham, meteorologist in charge for the National Weather Service.